Morning, boys and girls. Today is a science activity I wanted to do with you today. I remember in the beginning of the school year, somebody, I don't remember exactly who it was, but somebody asked me if we would be dissecting frogs. And, I thought, that's not the first time I've heard that question. Kids seem to be interested in dissecting frogs. Why is that? You guys are freaks. Just kidding. But the thing is, you got to have dead frogs. You got to have scalpels, and all this different types of equipment. And I don't have all that stuff. So, it's kind of smelly and messy. Yeah, we are going to do it. In fact, we're going to do it today because we're going to dissect the frog virtually. Virtually. There's an app for that, and that's what I wanted to show you today. So we'll kind of just do this app together. You'll see how you really dissect a frog. I actually dissected a frog when I was in, I think, 8th grade biology. I'm not sure. But Mr. Smith was my science teacher, and it definitely was an activity I remember because it really smelled. They put dead frogs in this liquid in this jar. I remember him bringing the jar out in front of us, and there were like these, dead frogs in this jar with this liquid. And when he opened it up, it was so smelly. This stuff they put them in is called formaldehyde, and it preserves their bodies so they don't decompose. But I remember that smell was pretty nasty. Okay, so let's get into the app. And there. Before we get into the app, I wanted to just kind of look at the frog life cycle. And frogs go through a 4-stage life cycle. They start out as an egg, and inside that egg, there is a mass of cells that are going to divide and get bigger and bigger. And eventually, it's going to become, there we go, this kind of like little embryo with a tail growing out of it. You see that? And it's going to keep growing, and eventually it's going to burst out of that shell and become the tadpole you may have seen before. If you live in a development that has a retention pond, maybe you've seen tadpoles swimming around. The ones I've always seen have been black in color, but this one seems to be white in color. Anyway, the key thing there says a tadpole with internal gills. So it has gills that will allow it to get oxygen, because every living thing needs, every animal needs oxygen to survive. And so it's going to get oxygen with its internal gills. And then it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, swimming around, eating vegetable material, not vegetables, but like, plant material, getting bigger. And eventually it's going to start to, you see these limbs coming out of it, the hind legs. At this stage, it's growing. This is at 70 days. So just think, in 70 days, you could grow a pair of legs. But something else that's growing inside this tadpole are lungs. And lungs are growing inside this tadpole because eventually it's going to become a frog. And the frogs live in water and out of water, and that's what makes them an amphibian. They can breathe out of the water with lungs. So at this stage, they're growing their lungs. Then they start to grow, their other, I'm kind of messing this up, it's better with my finger. They grow their other front legs. This would be, once it has its legs, it's kind of called a froglet because it is looking like a frog. So this is the 3rd stage. The first stage was egg, and then it is a tadpole. The tadpole is also known as the larval stage. And at this stage, it is it's like half frog and half tadpole. So it's a froglet, that's what they call it. And of course, it's going to lose that tail and it's going to spend more time out of the water as a young adult stage frog. Pretty cool, huh? Let's look at that. Let's see if I can go backwards. Just kind of see it all in one. Cool, right? All right. Well, let's dissect that frog. All right, so you're going to put the frog in this tray that has almost like um, a bulletin board where you can tack things on it. So the pins are going to get pinned onto the frog to keep the frog in place so it doesn't move around. Then you're going to take a marker and you're going to mark where you're going to cut. Next, we're going to use the scissors and we're going to cut up all the way up to the frog's chin. We're going to do some cuts along the sides, above the limbs. Then we're going to use a forceps to take the skin back on both sides. This time we're going to use the scissors to cut up the muscle. You don't want to cut too deep because you don't want to destroy the organs underneath, because the whole point of doing a dissection is so we can look at the organs. Now we're going to take the forceps and the scalpel and we're going to cut to remove the muscle layer. Chop, chop, chop. Now we're going to take the forceps and we're going to have the big reveal. We're going to pull back the muscle layer so we can see the internal organs. Drum roll, please. And then we're going to take the pins and we're going to pin the skin and muscle layer back. Whew, that's a close-up. We're going to take the forceps to lift these liver lobes out of the way so you can see all the other organs. So basically what they're doing here is they're showing us if we tap on any of these organs, we can see what that organ does. So I'm going to tap on this green one here. That is a gallbladder. It's a kind of like a sac that's used to hold bile, which is a digestive juice. To the right of the gallbladder is its heart. Check it out. Kind of looks like our heart. Of course, the heart is used to pump blood throughout the frog's body. Here's the liver again. We looked at those. So it produces bile and does other things as well. Behind the green gallbladder is the lungs. And we talked about them before, how these lungs will enable it to breathe out of water. It's kind of interesting about the lungs is that they will get oxygen to its body, but the frog can still get oxygen when it's in water through its skin, which is kind of interesting. So it can breathe through its skin in water and get oxygen, and you can use its lungs out of water to breathe the oxygen in air. So now let's talk about digestion. I'm going to start over here on the right with this stomach. Pretty nasty looking, huh? Yep. Basically, that is where all the chewed up flies and bugs will go down into that stomach and get mashed up, and digestive juices will get mixed into it to kind of liquefy that fly. Then we'll go into the small intestine, the liquefied. Ugh, look at that. Neat. Um, like our intestines, the small intestine will take this liquefied food and it will take out all the nutrients out of that food. And the food, the nutrients will then go through the bloodstream to all the different parts of the body. What's left over is going to be the liquefied food, but without all the nutrients. That's going to go into the um, large intestines. Let's take a look at that. So it's going to take that liquefied food and it's going to suck out all the water out of it. And what's left behind will be this solid waste called feces. We know it as poop. So those are the organs of the frog. I hope you enjoyed looking at that, and even though it was a little disgusting, but at least it didn't smell. Let me come back. Somebody told me to hold up this sign because save the virtual frogs. I don't know. It was funny when I drew it. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this activity and come back for more. Bye.